Hey everybody, and welcome to the third episode of this class that I'm teaching on building two cable management boxes. And today I want to talk a little bit about joinery and our different options, and I went ahead and chose what I wanted to use for this and explain to you why I chose that particular joint and show you what it's made of and how it works. And then at the end of this, I've got something I need you to vote on to help me out. So, in just a moment, we're going to talk about joints. So I know you can't see me, but what's important is that you can see the material. And so I'm going to try to work right in this area, and I want to talk to you about joinery. So I've already started the joinery here on one of the two cable management boxes, and we'll come back and talk about that in just a minute. I need to move ahead on it. However, I want to talk to you about the different options that we do have for joinery. So let me begin by saying you can make a board wider, but you cannot make a board longer. Now there's an exception to that rule, but we don't need to get into it. But you cannot glue two pieces of wood like this together and expect that they're going to hold together very well or very long. If you'll remember when we started talking about wood, we talked about the fact that when you look at the end grain here, all of these, you can, if you look in there really close, you can see a bunch of little straws. And that's not the right term for them, but it gives you the idea what I'm talking about. We've talked about that before. And the moisture moves in and out of those, and that's what causes a board to expand and contract. Now, boards don't get longer, they get wider or narrower, depending on the humidity, climate, so on and so forth. Wood is a living thing. Even after it comes out of a tree, it still has movement to it. So anyway, if I put glue on this, then it's just going to soak in. And while you want glue to have some adhesion just below the surface, if you don't have anything that stays up here, you have nothing to really contact with this board. And that's what happens, is you just really cannot get, you have to put a lot of glue in there. And then, if you put it up against another piece that's got, so you understand what I'm talking about, it's not going to have anything to hold it together. This is a little bit better. This is called a butt joint, and you just butt one piece of wood up against the other, put some glue there, clamp them together, and they'll hold for a while as long as there's no stress on them. You can make decorative boxes this way as long as they're just going to be sitting around. But if it's something going to be used regularly, then that's a bad joint. It's just too easy to break. Now, the next joint I want to talk about is probably the one that you're most familiar with, and this is the miter joint. And I don't know, you just rarely ever see a picture frame that doesn't have a miter joint. Miter joint is just where you take you take a board that's a full-length board, or whatever size you need, and then what you do is you cut 45s in it so that you're making it all together, and you end up with a box or a rectangle in this particular case. Miters are not very strong joints because all we've done is taken the end grain, and by cutting some more board back here at an angle, we've exposed more of it. So we have end grain to end grain again, excuse me. So it's not a very good strong joint. And I had to go up to the house and find this picture frame in the closet because I don't have any miters anywhere in my shop. So that's the miter joint. The two most common joints you're going to find in furniture are clearly going to be the mortise and tenon. That's going to be the joint you're going to see in tables, in chairs, all kinds of different applications for this. And so basically you put a hole, a channel, maybe you could say. This particular one is made so that you get the most amount from your piece of wood in the width of your apron here. You can have them anywhere along the way. So I could have a mortise. Actually, this is a dowel spot, but I could have a mortise right here with the other leg have a mortise. And then what I could do with that, I'm sorry, I should have put it here. I could have a mortise here. I've just got a dowel joint, which is a type of mortise. But I could have a traditional mortise here and then have a mortise on the other leg that corresponds, and then cut myself a piece of wood with tenons on it and connect that very strong joint. So basically how it comes together is you want it to be a little bit tight. You should have to put a little pressure to it, and you should be able to lift that item without it coming apart. Now, think about what it's going to be like when you add glue to this. You've got a mechanical joint and you have a chemical fastener. So these are just amazingly strong joints. They're not terribly hard to make once you learn how to make them. There's a whole lot of different ways to make them. They're just not complicated. So, but they do a very strong joint, and you can adjust them all different kinds of ways for decoration. Finally, the last main joint would really be a box joint, or in our case, we're going to talk about a dovetail joint. Now, this is a dovetail joint, and I just did this a few minutes ago, so it's not very clean. But these are dovetails, and they look like the tail of a dove. That's why they call them dovetails. And then these are corresponding pins. So there's a lot of argument, and I'm sorry, I should have said these are dovetails. I may have put it up too high. These are dovetails. They look like the tails of a dove, and these are the pins. And what you do is the first thing you do is you cut the dovetails. That's how I do it. There's a lot of argument in the world, the woodworking world, about whether you should cut the tails or the pins first. It doesn't matter. But I happen to cut the tails first, and then what I'll do is I'll take my blank board, I'll put this on top of it, I'll mark out where these are at, and then what do I end up doing? When I cut all of that waste out, I end up creating a joint that I can put together that is amazingly strong. Okay, so put it together. That one's real pretty. But the bottom line is that look at all the mechanical area that you have, and then you add glue surface to it. So this is an extremely strong joint, and the Egyptians used this joint. So it's nothing uncommon to find this joint, even in concrete or rock work. They made dovetails. So it's a pretty amazing thing. So what I have chosen for our particular project is what is called a green and green joint. And it's basically a box joint. A box joint is like a dovetail joint, except instead of having angles, they're just all symmetrical. But I decided to do a modified version of a green and green. And so I'll show it to you. I put one together. Okay, here we go. So I've already assembled. Now, there's not glued up. I've just assembled it at this point. But you'll notice that I've allowed these to protrude. And I'll show you in a minute what we're going to do about that. But the box is exactly what they've asked for. Inside dimension-wise is actually about a quarter of an inch wider inside. I always make sure we add a little bit on the inside. And then the width is perfect. And then the height is going to be great. We're going to put a piece of a bottom in here, and then we're going to do a top. So this is already what we're looking at. And just so you'll know, it's not going to look just like this when it's done. Whoops. I hope you can see that these are chamfered. They're not just straight flat. They're chamfered. There's a chamfer on them right here. And it'll go all the way around. I haven't done the ends of this one. But what happens is when we're done, they still protrude, but they've got a nice decoration, a nice design on them. So they're very attractive and they're strong. This one's not going to get moved a lot, but it's going to have a lot of strength. There's a lot of glue joint here. So once I do that, once I get it glued up, it's really going to be nice. So, speaking of which, I need help with one more thing before I go. So, I want you all to vote on which wood we're going to use for the top and the bottom. We're going to use the same wood on either one of them. If we choose one wood, it's going to be the same wood for the top and the bottom. But we don't have to use the same wood on both boxes. This is going to be what our box is made out of. You've already seen a lot of that. Now, this is called cherry. Cherry is a medium color wood. It'll look nice against this. But as it gets older, it'll darken, even under natural light, even with a finish on top of it. So it'll darken a little bit over a period of time. This is called sapele, S-A-P-E-L-E, sapele. And sapele is a South American wood. I just happen to have some of this. I bought some for a special project for a customer, and I had some left over. So I have enough of this left over to make a top, and it's a very reddish kind of color. And then this is walnut. Now it'll look a lot deeper and darker than this, but walnut. So I need you to vote. Which one do you like best and which one do you like second? So I need your top two picks, and I need, so you can like two, I want you to like two different ones. You like cherry and sapele, or sapele and walnut, or walnut and cherry. You understand what I'm saying? So I want you to vote. So make sure you tell your parents what your vote is, and then they'll send that to Miss Holly or Miss Erin, and they'll get that information to me, because I'm going to go ahead and do a little bit more work on this and move to another project while I'm waiting for y'all's vote. So y'all are going to pick this out. So think about what you'd like to see, and I look forward to hearing seeing your vote. And then the next episode you'll see we'll actually be working on those two parts. So y'all take care, and I hope you get out there and make some sawdust.